Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to talk about negative space, or we're going to try and to make sense of it. So, this will be spoiler filled. So, if you have not read the book, go read it and then come back and watch. Don't spoil this. Don't spoil it for yourself. So, we're here today with some friends. Pax, do you want to kick us off with some introductions and?
Sure. My name is Pax. I run Pax Panic. It's a horror tube channel. We do lots of fun stuff over there.
Mhm.
Yeah. My favorite color is green.
No.
No, I do book reviews, tons of stuff. Yeah. So, love me some horror.
Nice. Crystal.
Yep, Crystal. My channel is Fiber Artsy, and it's a weird name, but I've had it forever, so I hesitate to change it. But yeah, I talk books over there too, and I read a lot of horror too. But I like weird fiction, sci-fi, and I mix it up from time to time. But yeah, I love to read. I love to talk about books. So here we are.
Nice. And Daniel.
And I'm Daniel. I don't have a channel, but I just like to talk about books. Also, horror isn't one of my main genres I read, but I read a little bit of everything. So if it's interesting, I'll read it usually.
So this one was I went back and reread the last 100 pages or so today just to kind of refresh my memory, and it's as confusing as the first time I read it. There's lots to dissect. So what was everyone's thoughts on this one as you finished it? Who wants to go first?
Oh, Krista, I went first for the introductions. Would you like to go first for this?
Sure. Well, for me, I mean, I'm not a tabber.
Oh, wow.
There are lines in here that would sometimes like knock me out. I don't know about you guys. So I thought the writing was really amazing.
Mhm.
And then the story itself was like, what? You know what I mean? It's like this confusion, but not really confusing. And then for me, it was just this like uncomfortableness that like permeated the whole story. And I had to keep going. You know what I mean? So, and I ended up just loving it, I think. I think because I read it in just a couple of days. Like I couldn't put it down, that kind of thing. I just had to know what in the world was going on with this book because it was so interesting. It was just super interesting. So yeah, just kind of over general thoughts.
Yeah. So Daniel, as a non-horror fan, what were your thoughts on this one?
I thought it was good. It reminded me of a lot of my friends. Maybe I kind of lived a rough life, but I've I've seen Xanaxes and I've seen all of the drugs they did besides Whirl, and that kind of made the whole story kind of whirly. It was hard for me to see the straight lines in it,
Hmm.
but it was good. Like I was entertained. I'm still a little confused, but I think like with good horror movies, which like is what I'll draw from here because that's what I like have seen. They're also kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Right.
So Pax, what were your thoughts on this one?
I think it was like a fever dream at some points, but definitely one of the most unique books I've ever read. From the setup to the story, it was very, very unique. One of the most unique. And I feel like I've read a lot of weird books, and I can still say I think this one was one of the most unique. Definitely that, to use Crystal's word, uncomfortable. I don't think, some parts were pretty in your face, horrific, but most of it was not in your face like what I often say, blood, guts, and gore. It wasn't, but it was still very like, wow, I feel like I need a bath, you know? Something like that. That kind of feeling, that uncomfortableness throughout the whole book. But it was enjoyable. It was definitely enjoyable for me anyway.
Yeah. Before we went live, you had mentioned you enjoyed it, but this definitely isn't a book for everyone. And I
Correct.
agree
I
with
do
you. I
not think.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be polarizing for a lot of people. I don't think there's going to be, everybody's going to pick it up and go, wow, this is great. Some people are going to be like, this is insane. I don't know what I'm reading. Yeah.
Yep.
It, yeah. Kind of reminded me of like an A24 film. Where That's kind of what
what?
the vibe, like an A24 movie,
Oh, I have no idea.
like the
What is that?
production company.
Oh, okay.
The
That's
studio
why I don't
did like
VHS?
yeah.
Did they do
They did like
VHS?
Hereditary and
Oh, okay. I know Hereditary.
like Saint Maud and some other movies. So the ones that try and do, they try and add like another layer to the.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
very hit and miss, very polarizing. Kind of what it reminded me of.
Absolutely. All right.
So who wants to try and dissect this one? This is a tough one to dissect. I think part of the reason why it's uncomfortable, and I agree that it is uncomfortable, part of it is I think that it holds a mirror up to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of what makes it uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Well, it dives into so many different things, and I mean, I know for me, I was thinking like what I felt like as a teenager, like you're so unsure about literally everything at that age. At least I was. I was incredibly unsure. You don't know what you're going to be, you don't know what you're going to do with your life, and then you add in all of this extracurricular strangeness, and it just expounded it. So that was one of the things I was like, wow, these kids, because they're just kids, and they're dealing with all of this stuff, and then the strangeness on top of everything. And I still haven't figured out some of them.
There's real apathy too. Like, it's these kids. I mean, we've all been there, right? I think when you're a teenager, especially, even if things are going well for you, you still have those periods of where like,
Exactly.
oh my God, what is the point of everything?
Exactly. Well, exactly.
You're at that age where you're just figuring out everything.
Right.
There's
right.
pressure to do this and do that, but then
Well,
you
you
just want
saw
to live your
that
life
with,
and blah blah blah. And
well, you saw
and
that
so you
with
just
their
shut down almost.
relationships. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
And,
You saw that with their relationships, their parents, each other, all of that. It's like I said before we started. Like I disliked Jill, but part of that is because I had friends like Jill. I had friends that were like, "What are you doing?" Like, stop it. That's what I felt like reading about Jill the whole time. I was like, stop making poor life decisions. So, yeah, definitely. I had people like that in my life when I was a teenager.
And Jill got lost. She got lost because she was just looking for someone to fill a void for her. She looked into Tyler for doing that, and she looked into the drugs for doing that.
Absolutely. And honestly,
so I think as a teenage girl, I was like, I get you, girl. I got you. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I did. It didn't make me like her, but I understood her. And
yeah, totally. I was like,
such a follower. The whole time I was like, I know you want to save him, but is he worth saving? Ask yourself this: was Tyler worth saving?
Right. Yep.
Daniel, we're talking too much. I'm sorry.
No, keep going. You guys are doing good.
Who was your favorite character, Daniel?
I was just thinking about that. I think Lou, probably.
That was mine. Yeah, that was mine too.
Crystal and I are Team Jill.
Speaking of Lou, I have something that I've been dying to ask other people who've read this book, if you noticed. Okay, concerning Lou. And I actually looked it up. Aren't you guys proud of me? My God, I don't look up anything. So did you guys notice there were two things that were very ambiguous about Lou? Number one is they changed the spelling of the name. And number two, they went back and forth on like the gender.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you think that had something to do, because Lou was very ethereal, maybe, is that the word? Mystical.
She was weird.
Yeah, exactly.
They were weird. Yeah.
Right. I mean, on the layers of weird, I feel like Lou was really up at the top.
She was top weird.
Right, top weird. I like that. Top weird. Top shelf weird. I love it. Okay, so do you think maybe that, because I was thinking like, okay, was that intentional? Was that supposed to like confuse us and make us like very, off kilter as to how we approached that character because of the weirdness, because of how weird they were and how that progressed? What do you guys think about that? Or was it just a proofreading error?
No, I think it was definitely purposeful.
I think it was too.
I don't know if it's just as simple as, well, they're a non-binary character.
Right. Well, and see, I thought about that too. I
You
thought
know,
about
maybe
that.
it's just simple and we, you know,
Right,
or is it deeper meaning? That's one of
yeah.
those
I was
I
just
don't really
wondering, like,
know.
what y'all
Yeah.
thought, because
I definitely
I
noticed
the
it.
first time
Yeah.
it happened, I was like, does that mean something?
I
You
think
know,
I
because I
went
kept
back
thinking,
and I was like,
I
I thought
did
Lou
too.
was
I did
a
too.
girl.
And
Yeah.
because of the nature of the book, I was like, does this mean? I mean, are they just non-binary? You know, or is it this? Is it? But I was like, I feel like maybe this was like intentional for a reason, and maybe I'm just not picking it up.
Yeah, but I
I
don't
was just
know.
wondering what y'all thought. Okay.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Daniel, about that? About Lou and the.
That part did trip me up, and I like decided I completely had misread the character, and I had to kind of go back and make sure. But
Yeah, I had to go back.
Hmm.
Like, wait a minute.
Lou seems to have like the weirdest dreams too.
Hmm.
We get a lot of Lou's perspectives throughout the book. I think more than probably any other character, maybe Amir, but
And
maybe Lou is something more. I don't know.
See, yeah. See, that's what
Hmm.
I was thinking. Lou seems set apart from the other ones to me,
A,
like in
a,
some form or fashion.
a big theme of the book is like coming into pieces and like withering away, but then being like reborn or like becoming part of what's around you. So
there were
maybe
many.
she had something to do with that.
Mm.
And then she met the like the dead boy becomes her boyfriend, and he's still alive, but maybe he's not still
Maybe.
alive. He never
Yeah, like
goes out
came
into the
back.
world, so
Yeah, he almost talks like he came back from whatever place the essay takes them. You know, like when they do the thing, it's
Mhm.
almost like I felt like he came back from that world almost, and he has like one foot in each now, which then made
Hmm.
me think like, okay, is that did Lou maybe was Lou more sensitive to these things going in? Is that why you know they can see these kind of things and it's more ambiguous than the other ones, you know, like Jill or Amir.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really threw me off, and I was like, oh, I cannot wait to ask someone else this, just to see what y'all thought.
Yeah, there were those sections where Lou would be talking about like going into Jill's body and like I am
Yes,
her
and I have something.
fingers and I am her,
Oh,
you know, I
okay,
see her legs, or I don't know, like, that's what, I'm
yes,
not saying the right words, but you know what I mean.
no,
She
no,
would
I know
talk
what you
about
mean.
like
I know
Lou would
what you
talk
mean. No,
about going into her Jill's body. She was kind of,
yes,
I think she, but they were, I don't know, were kind of slightly obsessed with Jill.
yes. Well,
And
and did you get like there was that at that one scene where where Lou was going in and talking about like the mass inside of Jill and like trying to
yes.
take it out. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
that leads me into the other thing I looked up. So the word whirl. Sorry, Steve.
No, that's great. Go ahead.
So I was looking that up because I was like, I swear I've heard this word. Like, you know, obviously I was thinking like whirl, and I'm going to apologize now. I can hear my twang when I say that word whirl.
Whirl.
Whirl. Uh, so I was looking it up, and it said in one of the definitions, it was like it's the swirl on your fingertip, but it's also like your fingerprint. I mean,
Mhm.
but it's also a swirl of muscle tissue, like
Mm.
your connective tissues where they come together. And I was like, and that was about halfway through the book. And then when it started talking about Lou going into her, I was like, oh, he's going into her muscles, like whirl, you know. So I was like, I wonder if that has something to do with it. So yeah, I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool. When I read that about the muscle tissue, and it was like 2 days later, I got to that part of the book about going in and seeing like her muscles and her tissues and all of this. So I thought that was an interesting little connection there, that the drug's name was Whirl and going into tissue and all this.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I thought
and
that
Lou broke whatever was inside Jill out of her, some
yeah,
kind of invisible cancer.
that was the word I thought too, like bringing out the like almost like a cancerous lump out of her, like talking about like drawing it out.
And who else did Lou do that to? Lou did it twice. I can't remember the second time.
Hmm.
Was it to the no, it wasn't to the boyfriend. Was it to Tyler? I can't remember who he did it to either.
I don't
I was
even
so
know.
focused on Jill.
I marked it anywhere.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know he did it twice, though. You're absolutely right, Daniel. He did do it twice.
I couldn't figure out why she didn't do it to Arnie, but maybe Arnie and Tyler, since they've both like been to, they're both like deep into it. They're untouchable. Their cancer's too big.
Yeah, like they're too
It
far
seemed to
gone.
almost kill Jill. She went into a coma or whatever. So
Yeah, and maybe Lou didn't care enough about them like they did Jill. You know, because it seemed like they cared a lot about Jill, as even just as a friend. I didn't really get anything more than that. I think they just really cared about Jill because she was always there for them.
except Amir. Amir didn't like her at all.
Well, yeah. Yeah, Amir.
He was kind of a tool.
Yeah. He's kind of a tool.
But he also had that level of obsession, but it was just with Tyler.
Yes.
Also, at like Jill,
absolutely.
but
absolutely.
Yeah. So there's something about Tyler. I guess that's pulling. Okay, this is silly maybe because I got serious like Chuck Palahniuk vibes when I read this. Like I think because some of the words, like the letters, sentences that I would underline, I'd be like, oh man, that reminds me of something else, And not that he's like copying or anything, but just vibes, vibes.
Right. Oh yeah.
And then like this guy's name's Tyler, and then like Tyler Durden is, I don't know.
No, I can see that.
It's silly, but but I was like, is he playing with this purposefully, or is it something? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a wink and a nod kind of thing.
Right. I feel like there was so many
Tyler
winks.
Durden, you know who he is as a character, right?
Yeah. No, there were so many winks in this book. It looks like they're sleeping.
Because everyone was drawn to Tyler Durden too. As they were to this Tyler here. I don't even know if we ever know his last name, but
I don't
know if we ever anybody's last name. But anyway,
Jill Trill.
That's right, Jill Trill.
Yes. Yes. Oh, there was another one. Oh, her friend in college.
Oh, Maddie?
Yeah. Maddie? What was the last name? Did you catch it?
No, what was it?
Gaskar. Maddie Gaskar.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I was like, are we serious? Maddie Gaskar. Yeah. I read that. I stopped for a second. I had to go back. I was like,
I don't think I got that either.
Yeah. Yeah. Maddie Gaskar. Yeah, I read it like, wow. Really? We couldn't go with like a nice Smith or a Johnson even? Just Gaskar. It's like she's like a Bond girl or something.
Did anybody look up that doctor? Was he a doctor? The guy that was supposedly like researching all this stuff, like the weight of your soul. Was he a real person? I forgot to look it up.
Yes.
He was a real person, right?
Okay. Yeah, he is a real person. Yeah, he would weigh people on their deathbed and see if they weighed less.
Right, so I thought so. So I forgot, but I've got to like confirm.
Isn't there a show called like 21 grams or
a movie?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's like a certain amount that he would record.
I find his name. Right towards the beginning. They were in the hospital at the beginning. That's right.
I think I have it tabbed somewhere.
I know, too, probably.
But I think it speaks to also the like the chat rooms and I think it's a the news cycle that all these major tragedies happen and people just keep going because it's just another headline.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. My whole time I was reading, I was like, I want to know the origin, because it seems like when we come into the story, all of this is happening and we see it get worse. I would love to know the origin, like who was patient zero, so to speak. Because I mean, the whole time we kind of think it's Tyler, but then towards the end, when you see that this isn't just contained in their town, it's out there in the world. I would love to know, like, where this started, kind of, or what was the genesis of it anyway, among young people. I always thought that would be good to know. Yeah. because it does seem to have like spiritual connotations, but then you add in like the drug use and stuff. But I mean, and there are traditions that incorporate that too. So
Mhm.
When it showed like the journal with his dad was like tampering with different hallucinogens, trying to open the gate, which is what humanity's been doing forever.
absolutely,
Licking frogs and
yeah,
tasting funny honey.
right, absolutely. Mushrooms, ayahuasca, all of it. You know, we're searching, you know, for something, and especially when towards the end when they were doing, well, like Lou, especially when they were doing the rituals, talking about like the light and it opening, so to speak. I almost found that more intriguing than I did the black threads.
Hmm.
Because
Oh,
it
the
was
black
almost like
threads are
the
cool
next.
though.
They were. It was almost like the next step. I've almost felt like when they saw this light, it was almost like, okay, you got past the black threads. Now we're on
Mhm.
to what you were doing the drug to begin with. This is where you were supposed to be heading.
Sure.
Now that you
Mhm.
got through all of the gunk, so to speak.
All the gunk. It's a
Literal
good way to
gunk.
describe it.
Yeah. Well, like coming, and I don't know. How did you guys take the threads? Like, were they positive or negative? Because I mean, I know they're gross, but I mean, they didn't really hurt anyone, I guess, except for like maybe the cancer thing inside of Jill. Because I almost got like when they were in. I think it was
Wow.
Amir. I think it was Amir and Tyler, or maybe it was Amir and Jill. One of them when they were in the like a forest and they were looking up at the trees and they were talking about like the things running down the tree or coming out of the leaves. It was all, and then of course they're like, oh, they saw them dripping down the face. It's like, okay, are these like the threads of life almost that they're seeing, like what connects us all? Because then that wouldn't necessarily be negative, but again, very ambiguous.
I have some thoughts on that. What did you think, Crystal, about the threads?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know if it was just hallucinations. You know, like
Right.
did it mean anything, or was it just like a visual representation of this drug they were doing,
Right.
or were they actually connecting to something else on some sort of other plane?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things I don't know. I don't really have an answer for. It's just
It could go
you
a
know what I mean.
hundred different ways. It really
Yeah.
could. It could go 100 different ways.
Daniel, do you have any thoughts on the threads?
I kind of thought it was like there was some kind of weird distortion of time at the end where
Mhm.
Oh,
like
yeah.
so I think that the strings might be like connecting different like times together somehow, or just the pieces of yourself that go out into the world are like the strings and they're always like moving. Then you had like what seemed to me to be like black magic, Tyler doing black magic, and then Lou learning like the light magic, and they both had the strings. The strings were constant with them both, even though Lou and I just said his name, I can't think of
Tyler.
it. No, her boyfriend. She got the one that saved the school, that got the school shooter.
Yeah. What's his name?
Whatever his name was, like he taught her like to pray to a good God and to try to use it for good, whereas Tyler seemed to like be using it to hurt the people that hurt him and get his razor blade back from 4 bullies, or because somehow he got his razor blade back that night. They never asked, like he never goes into how, but
It's just oozing with malicious intent, though.
Yeah.
How he
and
got
then
back.
yeah, and he's taking people's like taking hair and taking stuff from people and putting it into these things, hoping for them to get hurt or be saved, and it just didn't seem like good magic.
Right.
It seemed like selfish magic.
Well, he
But
took whatever this was to a very dark place, definitely.
But the black strings like remained until at the end, when there was like, I don't even think she was taking Whirl anymore. She was just like doing all the praying, and she was still somehow almost getting there, and there was a yellow light around inside of the like candle triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember him saying, "You don't need the drug, but it would take years. The drug helps us skip the years."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of
Arnie.
took
His
the-
name's Arnie.
Arnie. Oh yeah.
There we go.
Oh, what is
It popped in my mind.
his greatest entrance ever? What does he say? Oh, I'm not dead anymore. Back from the dead. Or something like that. Yeah, it's a great entrance. But the threads, I kind of, because they talk about the threads and vibration and time. I thought it was like a string theory. That's kind of what I went to, is like string theories, or because it's almost like a Lovecraftian thing where time, it's past, present, and future all at one time. Because Jill could see herself old and young and can see everything all at once.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my mind went.
No, as Daniel was talking, I definitely thought of string theory as you were talking, because that is essentially, I guess, what was happening towards the end, like seeing all those timelines converge.
Yeah. Well, Griffin, thanks for coming by. And Brian's here.
Brian.
This one sounds unsettling, so of course I need to read it onto the TV where it goes.
Oh, you'd love it, Brian.
Oh
Yeah, Brian, totally.
And this writing style actually reminded me of Brian's style of writing.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Brian's a lot more relatable.
Yeah.
I do. I think Brian's a lot more relatable. Like, I don't know. I can see people enjoying Brian's style probably a little bit more. Not to dog on this book, it was good, but I think Brian's a lot more relatable.
Accessible, yeah.
When y'all talk about the strings, I'm thinking now there's also, it's all called negative space too. So there, there's this.
Yeah, and
this connection of that, like that space between, right? Or the that altered space of where we are and where we're going, and those strings that take us there, I guess.
Well, absolutely. Well, the whole idea of the knot, almost like everything we see is here. It's tangible to some degree, but there's stuff that we can't. It's the knot. It's what we don't see, what's not in front of us.
And am I wrong, or did like Tyler's dad go into that world and stay there forever? He didn't like run out on the family. He was still in that house with them. They just couldn't see him anymore. They couldn't talk to him. They wouldn't listen to him. So he just sat there talking to them in that house forever without them responding. So somehow he like took the right dosage or the wrong dosage.
However you want to look at it, yeah.
Right.
There forever.
God, talk about hell on earth, or not on earth. Yeah, wherever they are.
He's in the negative space, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It honestly, has anyone read? And I feel like I've been mentioning this book, and I think it's a testament to the stuff I've been reading lately. Has anyone read John Dies at the End by David Wong? Okay, there is and I won't spoil it for you.
I tried it, but I didn't have to.
Okay, you should. Oh, I love it. And the second one's even better. This book is full of spiders. That's the title. It's not a description. It's the title. So there's a drug in that book that reminds me of this one in a lot of ways. The soy sauce, they call it in that book. And it has a lot. I know. I think it's just because it's like a little black pill. And I think they're like, oh, it looks like the color soy sauce. I think it's been too long. But it has similar effects. Not exactly, but similar effects, I think, to this. So it's almost a more, in some ways, humorous take. I mean, I highly recommend, I really do. If you liked this whole style of writing, I think you would like that one. It's nowhere near as deep, but it reminded me a lot of the effects of what these characters. If you took out a bunch of the weirdness and added in some comedy, I feel like it would have been John Dies at the End. Just a lot of like, oh, if you took this road, this would have happened. Dead people and meat men and cockroaches.
Oh my.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that.
Hmm.
You know, I feel like I'm talking a lot. Y'all are welcome to be like, shut up, I have something to say.
No, just enjoying listening. There's a lot of stuff that I've already picked up from.
Okay, so what did you guys think about the rituals? Like the different rituals, like what Tyler was doing, what Lou was doing. I thought it was interesting at the end when they were like, okay, you need to pick a saint. I thought that was really cool. But what did y'all think about the different rituals?
I liked it. It added a new layer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I was just like, well, you know, it's kind of like, one of those, what are we doing now? Where's this going now? You know, and well, because it started with Tyler, of course. I was like, what is this guy doing? You know, what is he up to? Because he is trying to do something here.
Right.
And then, you know, Lou gets brought into it, and then that chick at our college, Jill's school, who's like, how did she find out about it? You know,
so and that's what I was saying. I was like, because that lets you know that it wasn't just their town.
So, yeah, it was. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very, very crafty kind of stuff. You know, you got like, okay, is Feruza Balk going to show up soon? You know, I'm not real sure, but I really did. I liked it. I thought it was interesting, and I liked how they incorporated. How do I say this? Fluids in in a lot of the rituals, which I mean, I feel like is, you know, legit, because you think like blood, you know, a lot of times you need that to do rituals, and I thought that was neat the way they incorporated that you had to give a piece of yourself, in other words, in order to make the ritual work.
Fluids, yeah.
Trying to keep it PG, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, and Tyler went whole hog on the blood. He just cut himself all up all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Lou and what's his name, Arnie, they didn't use blood, did they?
No.
Okay. So I wonder if that made the difference. Maybe that made the difference.
I don't know. Yeah, they liked pearls. Yeah, they liked the pearls.
Or maybe that's why Tyler's went darker, you know.
And perhaps.
Maybe he was aiming for something else. You know?
But I see the connection there. I see the connection between, you know, like giving a piece of yourself, you know, like you have to give up something in order to get something back, so to speak. And maybe Tyler was asking for a lot more. I feel like Lou and Arnie were almost, to me, it almost felt like they just wanted protection. Like they just wanted to be
for themselves,
right? Or Jill or whoever. You know, they just wanted it. They were like, good, if you want to slap that label on it. Tyler was he was asking a lot. You know, a lot of times he was asking for someone's life to be taken. So maybe I thought like maybe that's why he had to give up so much of himself, like cut himself all to ribbons the way he did.
to ribbons.
But that's what I was thinking anyway. I mean, who knows? It could have been either way.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
What did you think about the rituals, Daniel?
I thought it was interesting. It's how us as humans have always tried to connect with something outside, and so if you're going to have that in a book and need a way to connect, that's a good way to do it. And then Tyler's using blood, and they're using like
pearl.
Kind of the opposite. Maybe it's not the opposite, but what Tyler was doing was going to kill him. Just continually cutting himself and draining his blood out into fires. But they both use like the the same like items. Tyler used other people's like possessions and body parts, where they were just trying to get protection. So I think one of them used a shell that they found at the river, and one of them used like some old item that they just liked a lot. Just trying to ward off whatever could come get them through the streams, I guess.
Yeah, get them like through the muck almost. Really, and that was almost like I saw. You know, Lou had the light. He kept talking about like seeing the light come in between the triangle, or the whatever he had, like the candles and whatnot. So it was like almost like seeing the light at the end, because with the Whirl it was all dark, it was all black. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting. It really almost did boil down to like this good versus evil when in Tyler and Lou, kind of, sort of, but not directly. Not directly.
I was curious what y'all thought about the wasps.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
At the end?
Well, they
Like
kind
in
of
Jill's
throughout.
house.
They
Yeah.
come in her house. They're
Was
at
it
the
a-
end. I don't
Was
know.
it a true story it talked about, like the saint that became a beekeeper because is that a true story?
Yeah.
That had something to do with it, I think. They're like,
Well, the bee is sacred to certain gods and saints and whatnot. So I thought that was really interesting. And honestly, I almost thought, and again, who knows, right? I almost thought it was when Tyler, because I mean, I got like when they were in Jill's house when Tyler moved in, I almost thought it was like Tyler didn't like them there because maybe they were coming to balance what Tyler was doing almost, because like you said, Daniel, towards the end, like the saint was the beekeeper. I almost was like, okay, is the world trying to balance what Tyler is warping by sending these bees or sending these wasps in to try and balance out this crap that Tyler's trying to like make chaotic? That crossed my mind too.
Well, see, I was curious because bees aren't wasps.
Yeah, right.
I always think of wasps as a bit more like
violence.
more icky. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with those guys because they'll come after your ass. So
absolutely, yeah. Wasps are awful.
So I was, yeah, it was a difference for me, but I didn't know what it.
Well, I mean,
what it meant.
Maybe
it felt different to me. I guess.
No, right? No, but I can totally see that because wasps are giant assholes. So like maybe since the bee is sacred, wasps are like, I don't know, the warped version of the bee. They're like the bee that didn't have their coffee that day. So maybe that was what that was.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a cool take on it. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I never thought about that side of it, because you're absolutely right. Wasps are terrible. They're awful. Mm-hmm. But it was neat when they were talking about like the paper, because I don't like wasp's nest or.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, filled up her basement, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, was talking about. Oh, speaking of her house, what did you get about the stuff that they were drawing on like the walls and like putting in the? I thought that was messed up. And what caught me was that then was it Jill? I think she was talking to her dad. Was it? No, I think her dad was already gone by then.
Oh, poor dad.
Yeah. Maybe it was her mom, because she was like, "What's all this?" She's like, "Oh, it's always been there.
It's been there.
It's always been there."
No, lady, when you wake up from the dream world here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of I did feel bad for Jill for that. I did, because she kind of had to watch her mom just like.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, but then she didn't do anything about it. So.
She was like, deuces, I'm out of here.
Yeah, seriously, she's like, but I still love him. I'm like, kick him out. What are you doing? When he moved in, I was like, oh my God.
This ain't gonna end well. This is not gonna end well.
I was like, just burn the house down now.
Right.
It would be faster. Just burn it down now.
Daniel, what did you think about the Thanksgiving dinner with Thanksgiving with Tyler?
Oh
God, that was a mess. I've seen arguments at Thanksgiving, but never seen anything like that.
Oh God, seriously, absolutely.
Yeah, talk about awkward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
The reason confused me too. I never really understood exactly why he did that.
I think he was just messed up. I think he was just far gone. I knew, though, as soon as her dad reacted, I was like, well, he's as good as dead. As soon as her dad reacted the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was going to happen as soon as he handed him a knife to help him cut turkey. You don't give Tyler knives.
That could be on the cover of this book. That should be the blurb on the cover. Don't give Tyler knives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That should totally be on the cover of the book, for sure.
And speaking of blurbs, there is none. There isn't a blurb to tell you what this book is about.
Probably somebody read it and they were like,
So-
okay, we're ready to take your blurb. And they were
Which
like,
is like even more intriguing.
yeah.
Because it's got this cool ass cover. And then you read the back and you're like, well, wait a minute, what's it about? I want to read it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure people were like, I liked it. You can't put that on the front of the book, though, right? You can't just put, I liked it, USA Today. Like, that's not going to work.
And Daniel, you were talking the other night about going through and matching the names to the chat room names. Were you able to match those up?
There was way too many chat names.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't able to.
I matched one.
I connected a couple, Young Caligula and Crazy Bob, of course, who I thought was like the central bad character, and he just died right away. Somehow he knew when people were going to die, though.
Did you see the one, I can't think of the chat name now. It had something to do with a doll, but it was Chucky, the character of Chucky. And he had one of the chat names, I think, had something to do with a doll or something like that.
Let's see if I can find it.
I think it only happened once or twice. Because Chucky wasn't a huge character.
Yeah, I wasn't able to.
Possum Ginny.
With the we had talked a little bit about Maddie, how she was able to she knew about this ritual, and I wondered if it was like a small town thing, because small towns are disappearing, like this hopelessness of like the small towns that were just, you have that feeling of hopelessness, if it spread, or if it was something that people just find, or if it was this force that was in their town that was drawing them back in, because it does seem like it draws them back in, because who at the end has the mom gets a phone call about the mom being sick, and when they fly in and he says, I'm here to see mom, and he says, well, I haven't talked to you in years, what are you doing here?
It was Amir. I think Amir's sister called him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it drew them back in.
You know what that reminded me of?
It.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Gary. It's totally Gary, and it is like the strings. Yeah, no, I totally thought of that. I was like, it's completely it.
And then Lou, just because I happened to flip through it, says, I found out about Jill decades after she'd gone. So there's something weird going on with Lou, too, with time.
Very much so.
For sure.
Very much so. Yeah.
Because Jill had that time been turned into this, local legend, the Candle Girl. Mm-hmm. But for Lou to have lost track of Jill, and it says decades.
Right.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was well, and because as I was reading, I really thought, because I had it on my Kindle, and you guys know Kindles do like weird things to pages. I was reading and I was really waiting on the book to wrap, and then that happened, and the whole thing with Jill like over at college and whatnot. And I was like, oh, so we're gonna take this even further, because I was seriously like hitting like, okay, well, we're probably getting down to the end here. And yeah, I thought that was weird, because I was not expecting it to go kind of outside of the borders of that town when it did.
It seemed like at the beginning they talk about how that town is like the highest concentration of murders per capita. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it is like the epicenter of whatever the Whirl is. But then it's slowly spreading outside. And Maddie's, she did the ritual, so she's not from that town and somehow still learned it.
Well, and that was the thing, because you had this whole, like, when her and Jill go back to her house, like her family home, it's this like real picturesque, ideal kind of thing. It's not like this slum that Jill talks about herself being from, this like really just nothing kind of town with nobody there and no store, nothing. And so it's like, okay, well, it doesn't seem to have affected Maddie's hometown. It's like almost like, did she learn it later? And I don't know. I was kind of confused about that, because Maddie seems to come from like ideal circumstances.
Mm-hmm. I forget why she said she did the rituals. No.
Forget where she learned it from.
Yeah.
Well, I know her friends were aware of it, but her friends, Maddie's friends, didn't seem like they were in on it. Because they were kind of like, oh, it's just something she does. It wasn't. It seems like they were just like wrote it off as like, oh, she does that every now and then.
Some weird she does, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was almost like Maddie was the only one of that little group. Which then you can also beg the question, like, okay, is that why Jill was drawn to her? Because Jill kind of had this connection, like God knows she couldn't leave Tyler alone.
The threads.
Right. Exactly. So, like, what was she drawn to Maddie for that reason? Because Maddie had that cancer, so to speak. Because it really did seem isolated to Maddie, at least in that particular setting. It seemed, whereas in Jill's town, everybody was getting touched with it, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah. So, Daniel, did you pick up on the religious angles that they played at? One of the I think they're in church and the priest says God is alive and he hates you or something like that.
Then he just kept like referring to the next chapter and then the next scripture and then the next scripture, just basically leading them to think they either come to church or they're going to hell. Which is what all pastors do. I guess he's just being a pastor. And then I remember towards the end of the book, it talks about, like, it references 3 gods. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but one's like, oh, it's going to bug me. 3 gods they never mention the whole rest of the book, and they're none I've ever heard of.
I don't remember.
And it was Lou talking about that.
Oh, our friend Priscilla's here. Negative Space was a heady read.
Absolutely, Priscilla. Well said.
Yeah, I'm not remembering either, Daniel.
I was going to write the names down and look them up, because it was weird that they didn't really. They mentioned, like, he gave her that book and told her to pick a saint, I think. But when he referenced these guys, they were gods, and it was him. It was Lou's boyfriend that talked about it.
Was it in the same scene where he gave her the book?
No, it was like towards the end.
Okay.
One of my favorite quotes is the very first quote in the book, which is cool. That Hofstadter quote about, like, death and people living on in the collective corona.
Yes.
Paired with the Charles Manson quote was weird.
Yeah.
Like, even if I'm in prison right now, I'm burning or lighting city to your fires in my mind. Those are interesting quotes to start this book with.
Absolutely. Although I have to say, Charles Manson probably was. I could see him being an inspiration for some of the thought patterns.
Like Tyler?
Yes.
His old famous quote, like, I never killed anybody.
Well, exactly.
I'm charged with the dispensation of life and death. Like,
every man is Jesus Christ. Yeah. Can you not see Tyler saying that? Every man is you. I totally could see him saying that. It's going to drive me insane trying to find the names of those gods, because I do not remember that.
You guys keep talking, I'll find it. I remember it.
I think
because I remember the saints.
Yeah, I think the religious stuff was just almost like a commentary on how young people can feel disillusioned by religion, because they feel like they're not, how they can turn away from religion in a way as they grow older. So I thought that was how some view religion. When they go to
Right.
church or they introduced to religion. I think that's part of why a lot. I think it touches on why more and more people are less religious than they used to be.
Well, it seemed like the kids wanted connection, and they weren't getting that
Right.
from the religions that they were brought up in. You saw that especially with Lou, I thought. Being like, okay, get ready for church. Oh, come on, let's go to church. Like, I feel like they were striving for this deeper connection to something. Now, is that the drug, or is that being a teenager and wanting to find your place in the world? But I definitely see what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. I definitely see what you're saying, though. It does seem like that the kids were wanting something. They were wanting more on a spiritual sense. Yeah, that is cool, though. There's the whole idea of like string theory and threads and being connected and all of that. Man, you could talk for days about that as far as like relating to religion, I feel like.
What were your thoughts on that, Crystal, on the religious stuff?
I guess I didn't think about that too much as I was reading, I guess. I saw the the rituals as more the religion as opposed to the sort of the usual stuff, and even the drug use as a religion almost,
That's like spirituality.
To that apathy, I think that they were feeling too, and just wanting to feel something else. You think about living in a town where like the suicides are like that high, like I don't know, you kind of would feel bummed out, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, because you think like, well, what's the point? What's the point of everything? And if you don't get an answer to that, then it could be dangerous.
Because I don't know what the church was doing necessarily to, help with that, to help give answers to that.
Right.
I don't know that I really explored in the book, but
yeah, I
would say it wasn't doing too much.
It didn't seem
to make people feel good.
Right. Yeah, it didn't seem like any of the big major entities were doing a whole lot in that regard. Then again, I mean, is that because we were hyper focused on those characters? Maybe.
Yeah, I think to both of your points, I think they wanted that connection. They were looking for something for comfort and for, just something to latch onto, and they weren't getting that because of the approach that the church or whoever it was took to reach them in like a threatening way and less of a comforting, welcoming way. I think that's how a lot of young people feel about, especially like, Catholicism, gets this fire and brimstone kind of thing, and it's just not, it turns people off.
Right.
And in
When
this
it comes to generational differences.
The religion isn't working. It's just like saying all these people are going to hell that you're seeing die around you, whereas all these people practicing spirituality like are achieving something or seem to be connecting to something. Didn't seem like the pastor was connecting to anything.
Well, I mean, and the whole idea of, all these people are burning in hell, hard stop. That doesn't answer any question. At least to me. I don't think it would answer any question. I would be like, okay, but why did they do it? Like I don't need to know where they are now. I want to know why they did it, because I understand that path and I need you to stop me from getting to that end. So if I don't know. I just don't think like, oh, well, they're burning in hell now. That's, you're not going to stop anyone with that. I don't think, at least not a lot.
What were some lines, Crystal, that you underlined that you really like just made you stop and highlight?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a tabber, but I underline a lot. So I write in my books. I know, but I
savage.
Well, this one has a tab, an underline, and a star. So let me see what this one was, because I obviously thought it was something really important. So this is Amir. Let's see. Okay, this is a good one. All the world blurred, a vibrating hemorrhage. And it was fine because I could finally feel how little impact I'd ever have on the world. Losing
Yes!
that dread that one day you'll somehow ruin everything for yourself and everyone else. The realization that I could simply leave and the world wouldn't miss me.
Yes, I have a picture of that.
Really?
That I don't have, obviously, but yeah, I have a picture of that
That
one.
was good.
Yes.
That was good. That, to me, that real low feeling that these kids had of just like everything was worthless. What is the point? Let me just lose myself in drugs and sex and whatever the hell else I can find
Right.
to just make it through the day.
Mm-hmm. No, that talk about powerful. That one was definitely
That was
powerful.
good. There was some good stuff in here.
Well,
I will read like whatever this author
I've got one, and it was
writes because
short.
it is gorgeous writing, I think.
It was good. This was, let's see, who is speaking here? Okay, this is Tyler. To Jill, it's easy to be shitty when someone loves you unconditionally.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I wrote that one down. Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, is that not the truth?
Mm-hmm. Like meeting God finally and learning he hates you.
That was it. Yeah.
That gave me a Polinick. That was a Chuck Palahniuk vibe kind of sentence. I think that's what I say. Some of this gives me Polinick vibes.
Yeah, there was
a lot. It's a lot of good stuff in here.
Did you have
and
any
Lou
favorites?
is weird, man.
Yeah.
Crazy weird.
They just say some weird stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Especially towards the end, I really felt bad because there for a while I thought maybe Lou was happy, and then I don't know. It's like the pull to go back just ruined everything in a way.
What about the ending?
I was about to say that last page.
Like WTF, right?
Yeah. It was very unfulfilling. Very unfulfilling ending. Because you're like, man, you wanted so much more for them, for the whole book. Not like in a bad way. It was just, it fit with the whole story. But it was just like, ugh.
Tyler's like this meat tarp. I don't know. I was it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
He's like just skin.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a bunch of turtles. What's going on here?
That was a hard part to understand. And then it kind of like went into the future and talked about like the town still talking about Jill and how you could like contact her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a ghost story to them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like sometimes I whisper back. Yeah.
This weird time, this journey. I don't know. This like.
What did y'all get the string thing where they lay strings? I thought that was weird, where they lay strings with the candles.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of harkening back to the drug, which then made me think like, oh God, are they seeing the strings? Are we gonna have like round 2 with a whole nother generation? You know, because they know about the strings. How do they know to put? How do they know about
why a string? Right?
Yeah, why strings? If you have to
think about that, but
I didn't get the idea that this was over.
Yeah.
I think since that one drug guy came with like a whole bunch of pounds of it and beat up Tyler and left, that it seemed like it was gonna start spreading.
This kind of stuff becomes legend almost, you know.
Which was weird to me because, and again, I'm kind of drawing parallels with John Dies at the end. They treated it like it was any other drug, you know, when it's not. It's like so much. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur of drugs, but it's not at all. Like it's so much different. You know, it does so many other things that, you know, I thought it was odd just to see it treated like any other kind of thing would be. Like, I don't know, bricks of cocaine in a car tire or something. You know, it was really weird to see it treated that way. Because I was envisioning like, you know, special like spiritual practices going in, like chanting over it and stuff almost. And then they were just like, here, hold this bag. Like,
But I don't think it was that way for everyone. Amir did it, and he never really did anything.
well, see, but is that because
Ritual,
he's
like,
he was kind of like just a weird.
well, he was.
like,
I think he was the
individual?
most far gone as far as like, what's the point in life?
Right. So, but then it's like, okay,
Did Tyler make it more because he used it to do what he was trying to do,
right.
or was it that important to begin with? The drug.
Exactly.
Again, I don't know, but
Well, because it threw a whole wrench in the whole cycle for me when it was like at the end I think it was Arnie. I'm pretty sure it was Arnie when he was like, it'll take you years without the drug. So I'm like, okay, but what if they're not? What if they're just, a kid at a party taking it and they're not on this like spiritual path, so to speak, like what Tyler's spouting?
Because this like weirdo, just random drug dealer is selling it, so he definitely doesn't seem particularly spiritual or to be searching for higher meaning.
Right. Like, when you're doing, I mean, what is it? What's popular? Ayahuasca. You go to like resorts. There's a whole process. There's a whole there's accoutrement that goes with it. It's not like meeting someone in a back alley and slipping them a 20. There's it's just so odd.
It's weird,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Mm-hmm.
There's people watching this like 20. She obviously has never done drugs.
Or is this all just a bad drug trip?
Exactly.
Right. Does it mean nothing?
I probably would have thrown the book if I'd have got to the last page and they were like, and then Jill woke up.
Yeah, that would have been.
That would have been really disappointing.
I would have liked that.
Yeah. Be like, and then Tyler coughed and rolled over and Jill woke up.
Yeah.
Any lines that stood out to you, Daniel?
There were some. I can't think of any, and I didn't highlight any. Oh, here's one where it's talking about like the noose, and it says the loop beats itself and it either ends or starts again.
That was a good one, yes, because it seemed to keep starting over. Yeah.
And how they would like be picky about what they would choose to use to kill themselves. Then whenever they did kill themselves, like groups did it in certain ways. I think it talked about like all of them shooting themselves in the neck, like a whole like 7 people in an apartment building one day. So maybe you don't get to choose sometimes. And then it talked about like Tyler always said he wanted to be like put into the river when he died, and then they go to his funeral and they're like, he didn't get anything he wanted, he doesn't even have any friends. And then at the end, Amir like grabs a turtle and then goes and puts it in the river.
And it floats away, yeah.
Well, and okay.
Which had a thread of an intestine hanging out from it.
Yeah. And there's a whole, like, because this is where I overthink. The whole idea, and please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say, I think there is a religious belief, and I cannot remember what it was, about the world being on the back of a turtle. So that got into my brain, too. I was like, what, did that mean something? The fact that, because it could have been so many different animals. Why a turtle? So I was like, well, is there something with that? Like, because I'm pretty, and I cannot remember what it is now, which faith.
I don't know if it originated in Discworld, but it is in Discworld, and Stephen King also mentions it in the Dark Tower series. So.
Okay. All right. See, part of me wants to say it is like some kind of derivative of Hinduism, but I don't think that's right. Let me see.
Is it an indigenous culture?
Perhaps,
sure.
And it could perhaps be. It's my phone. Big Brother's listening.
Turtle?
Yeah, I literally put the world on, and it said the back of a turtle. So it's like, let's see.
While you're looking for that, one of the quotes that really kind of struck home was Time compresses the older you get. Days turn to weeks, turn to months, turn to seasons, turn to years, until your life resides in just one moment, expanding forever, where each step and breath folds wrinkles into your face, carving minute irreversible wounds between your joints, pressing down the notches between your spine, driving your ankles and knees to ruin. I feel it now, and it'll only be worse in the future.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think anybody with any age on them will agree with that.
Yeah, I was
Um,
like, oh, yeah.
You were correct, Crystal. It is an Iroquois belief, a creation myth from the Iroquois.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
But just weird lines too. Mimi and Pepe, I don't know. This is Jill, I think. They seemed barely alive, and when they ate eggs, they looked like monsters.
yeah,
Just weird stuff like that. That's what I underline.
yeah. It was very strange. Yeah,
But see, I
oftentimes
love that stuff like that though.
it
See,
was
I love weird books,
interesting.
and like this is my kind of weird. So
That's the epitome
that's
of weird.
5 stars. That's why, because they're like, this is my kind of weird. You know, I don't know half what's going on, and that's okay. I enjoy this. You know, the ride.
Right.
Here's the worst part about knowing anyone is knowing only that tiny sliver available to you.
Mm-hmm. Have y'all
That was
ever thought about
that was from Amir.
Yeah. Have y'all ever thought about that though? Like, talk about tripping yourself out. The fact that you exist in someone else's thoughts and you have no control over it, but you exist in someone else's thoughts, separate from what you think of yourself. Like, you talk about baking your noodle. Like, that'll do it. Like, it will.
Mm-hmm.
But there was kind of an element of that here too, because I felt like sometimes when Jill would talk about Lou, it was almost angelic. It was almost like she looked at Lou as something special or different. Almost like she could tell that Lou was apart from the rest of them in some ways. Just kind of like the feel she got.
Well, I don't know if I'm reading too much into Lou, but particularly in the beginning when we're first learning about Lou and Jill, I was like, is Lou autistic?
Yeah.
Because again, that's a vibe I got.
No. I got
my
it.
son's
I got it
autistic, so I was like, man.
No, I got it too.
I'm seeing some similarities here.
But see,
and, and Lou didn't seem to have any other friends, you know,
Right.
maybe like maybe Lou and Jill were friends for like elementary school or something.
Right.
And Jill was the
That's
only one that stuck around by her, you know, by Lou. And that one, you know, person that hung on to Lou because, you know, saw Lou as something more, you know, and not being just the weird kind of outside kid.
Yeah, I had the same vibes. I absolutely did. Just some of the early interactions, like I don't want to say strange social ways, but yeah.
But how Lou described things like, I saw knives that day. I went wet. You know, when someone was sad, like, oh, Arnie went wet that day, or I was angry, so I saw knives, or Mom was seeing knives because I'd made this bad choice. You know, the way Lou described things, also.
Yes, absolutely. I can definitely see that.
Interesting. I don't think of it that way.
Like I said, I might be thinking too much. But...
No, I can see that too. I can see that too. But I mean, I worked with a lot of those children and adults. So I mean, again, maybe I am reading too much into it.
Yeah.
I don't think anything in this book is unintentional. I think everything is very intentional. So I can see that being,
I could not imagine just the sheer brain power it took to write this book, like to put everything together. Like
I know he's got another one. Anybody else read?
No.
I want to read it now.
It does seem like it would be because talk about unique. That's really the only word I keep coming back to. It's very unique in all ways.
The air was like a flu, and it twisted my dreams. Who writes that? That's so good.
I liked the way Lou said she went wet. I thought that was I liked that. I really did. I thought the way he said that was really almost poetic in a way. So like, well, that's what we do.
It was like a physical description of feeling sad or depressed or whatever, you know.
Well, and I think that lends itself well to possibly having some of those autistic traits because, like you just see this. And that's all they can glean from it. They don't see the nuances, sad, depressed, anxious, this, that, happy even, if you cry when you're happy. So yeah.
Some things are just very literal.
Right. Right. Exactly.
A lot of literal in my house anyway.
No, I know you're absolutely right. I mean, that's just one of those things. The nuances aren't present. So
yeah.
Interesting.
And they really weren't with Lou. I don't think. And plus, Lou didn't seem to have a whole lot of emotion when it came to like reading the forums. They would just go to the forum like, okay, I'm just checking up to see if somebody's updated. Never mind the fact that we're talking about someone taking their own life. It was very cold. There was really not a whole lot of emotion that I got. It was just, oh, this is what I do. I just check. I just check to see if someone's put it on the forum.
When Tyler came up, Lou seemed emotional about it and just kept refreshing and refreshing and refreshing, and then asked people whether it's real or not. So maybe if it's connected to Jill, then Lou cares.
There's more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has a personal connection at that point.
Well, that was cool too. When, did Tyler go to the other side or not?
I was hoping I was like, God, please let him be gone. Everybody's life would be better if you would just leave.
Well, that person we know who, the oldest person who did these rituals is Tyler's father, right? And then Amir's going through the notebook, and the notebook's 10. It's really old. I forgot how old it said it was. But Amir sees the drawing of Tyler's hand, the drawing that Tyler puts on the wall everywhere he goes of his own hand and the 3 triangles and connected in a circle, I think.
Yep.
So if Tyler's dad drew that before Tyler ever drew that, then
there was the whole thing about, because the hand I've read, and this is just me reading, this is not personal practice or anything, but I've heard that the hand can often be called it's like a pentacle, and the pentacle was the first thing to represent man. So if you have the hand and then you have the 3 triangles, like man, earth, air, fire, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But I thought about that hand almost being a representation of him as a human and what he's giving up to sacrifice to reach these higher planes or these other worlds, whatever you want to call it. Again, probably reading too much into it though.
I don't think so.
But I do remember reading that the hand was because the same similar shape, almost to a pentacle, and how it was a representation of a human, or how do you put it? I guess the physical, perhaps, almost where we live, where the human body lives, because if you look head, 2 arms, 2 legs, head, 2 arms, 2 legs.
Yeah.
And again, I don't practice. It's just something I've read.
Yeah, I wasn't asking you guys about Tyler's notebook, but I think it sounds like maybe it has been around for a while.
Well, then didn't it disappear? Didn't Amir go back and look for it and it was gone?
Yeah, I think he moved it though. I think once he knew that they found it, I think he moved it.
Okay, because I know it was in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all of the stuff, the papers and the cardboard and stuff, I think were gone when he went and looked for it again. On the, what did he call that couch? The gross couch or something? Yeah, he called it the gross yuck couch or something. Yeah, it's that's gross. Ew.
I assumed everything in Tyler's house was pretty gross.
Probably, yeah. You could kind of smell Tyler. You knew, you could almost smell Tyler after a while anyway. Yeah, I was just sitting there the whole time when Jill was, when he refused to let Jill clean his cuts and stuff. I was like, let him get MRSA. Let him. It'll teach him. Let him get MRSA.
And then it was because he was shoving that stuff into his open wounds. So it'll go straight into the blood.
Hey, Mr. Morningstar. I think you'd enjoy this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there's this side story. You know, they have this band. There's
Yeah,
a dude at
the
the
whole thing
pizza
about them
shop
having a YouTube channel.
doing the ghost hunts.
Yeah, yeah.
What does all that have to do? I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie,
I
I
don't
probably watched it though. Not gonna lie, I probably watched that.
Yeah.
I think it all kind of leads to what kids are going through now. Like all of my nephews are starting YouTube channels. They've been desensitized because of their phones.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Well,
just
that's
trying
a
to
whole
find
nother
something positive. Maybe something they could look forward to, making their music or
Right. Yeah,
I
kind of
don't know.
grasping, just like grasping
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad, and it almost makes me like want to congratulate all of us for getting through that crap. You know, because we all face it in some form or fashion. You know, some more so than others, but you know, it really is almost like, wow, welcome to adulthood. Congratulations. I'm glad you made it. You know, because it sucks. It sucks. I do not understand. People are like, oh, I'd go back to 16 tomorrow. Not if you paid me.
Mm-mm.
No,
No way.
not at all. No. Like, do you remember 16? Like for me, no.
Ellie.
Yeah. Like really remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, really remember it. Like not the
Really
fun
remember.
stuff. Not
Yeah.
like the, oh, I get to go work my part-time job and go buy video game. No. No, I mean like the crap,
Yeah.
which was like 80%.
Mm-hmm.
From the current convo, this sounds like a heartwarming story.
It is.
Yeah, very hard. Yeah. Yeah. I think,
Heartwarming story about drugs.
yeah, but I think it is kind of a play on. I think part of it is that they're wrapped up in social media and they're wrapped up into these other things, browsing these forums and these chat rooms, looking at all these all these news headlines, and there's no community. There's no, and the community they do have is drugs and
Mm-hmm.
being assholes to each other. So
Absolutely.
they have nothing to kind of bring us together. I think the pandemic shined a light on that too, as because we couldn't interact with each other for the most part. So then that kind of made hurt communities too, that would get together and support each other and have those personal relationships.
Well, you saw the resiliency of the human spirit, as you do with any kind of tragedy. There's always that glimmer of the human spirit that comes through. And that's what I try to focus on. And you saw that with the pandemic. You see, people, like you said, coming together online and in different formats and things like that, trying to support one another.
Yeah, for sure.
This came out in 2020. I wonder what part of 2020 it came out, or when he wrote this. I wonder
if that played a role.
If it had anything to do with it or not, or was it he wrote it 2 years ago? And it just came out.
Right. So what was it? Was it March 2020?
Oh yeah.
Pretty sure it was like
when
March.
we hit it here, yeah.
Yeah.
It just says 2020.
Yeah, because I think it was March when it came here, but it was earlier, like January, February.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know much about this author. I'm not sure where they're from or anything.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does movies too. From like his website.
I can see that.
Ooh, okay.
I can see that. There's some flamboyance in some of those scenes that I could see translating well
visually. Yep. The strings, the ending scene.
I can totally see. Can you not just visualize those strings?
Yep.
Like and I know Crystal's gonna get like some Stranger Things stuff, right? Like some upside down kind of goo. Yep. Yeah, that completely, absolutely. Oh, he has his own website. Every time I see like searchterm.com, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna leave that front page of his website to all of you to discover. That was interesting. Yeah, his website's fun. Y'all should go.
I will after this.
Apocalypse Party, is that what it was called? Apocalypse Party?
Apocalypse Party, I think, is the publisher, right?
Yeah, publisher. Pearl Death is another one of his books. Amy
Wait, Pearl of Death?
Pearl Death. Yeah.
I don't
Just
want
in
to
light
read
of this
that.
book, that's funny.
It's a historical account told through objects, each depicted and described on a loose full-color playing card. Pearl Death
Yeah, I'm
includes
looking
100
at.
object cards and special sleeves.
Now that would be
Huh.
cool. I'm looking at that one.
Hmm.
Amygdalatropolis is another one.
And that's the one I'd heard
Yeah.
Okay.
of his previous book.
Brilliant neurorealism, in which the city is a computer.
See, I already want to read it. I'm down.
I'm down for that.
A
200 pages.
psychopathological cyber utopia heading straight into a lake of fire.
I love it. Yep. So.
Sign me up.
Sign me up.
Anytime you can work in psychopathological into a sentence, you know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, there's some stuff here that might be interesting. Electronic prickling. I'm not going to tell you where the electronic prickling is, but I'll let your mind wander. Here's a hint. It's not your nose. No, let's see. There's only listing 2 movies here. There's Angel of the Night and another one that I don't know if Steve would want me to say. So I'm not going
Yeah,
to.
I see that one. Burn you the F alive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. There's another one.
Oh no.
Yeah. Ends with Zoid.
Hole in the Earth.
It says it was directed by Nick Verdi, written by Nick Verdi and Yeager.
Oh, I'm not sure if I see that one on this page.
You watch his movies on that site, or do you other somewhere else?
Y'all should just go to bryeager.com. That front page is hilarious.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that as a pickup line.
Oh. May I lay my eggs in you? Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I see that. The Zoid, yeah.
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 He looks like an interesting guy.
I'm in though. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll give it a shot.
So
Yeah,
Daniel, what did you? Yeah.
Captured me a fan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever comes next, I'm down.
Yeah. Our friend John is here, just popping in to say hi. Yeah. I'm busy and also don't know what book it is you're discussing, but want to say hello. Thanks for coming by, John. This is a hard one to describe.
Yeah, we don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't even know. So Daniel, what were your thoughts on this one? Not being the horror aficionado, what were your? Now that after the discussion, has it changed your perspective at all?
I didn't have a bad perspective initially. I am thinking differently about the books in some ways after talking to you guys. And I don't know. I can't think that help but think Lou is somehow central to understanding the whole story, and I missed something. So. That's what I think. Because I knew that it would all make a bunch of sense, but I just missed something somehow.
Nice. Would you recommend this to a non-horror fan?
I don't know. When we started this conversation, you guys were talking about this book being hard to read, and I was thinking, doesn't all horror come with some warnings? Because horror by its nature is supposed to be disturbing in some way. So what horror would you recommend for all people?
I think that would depend on what your tastes are. Like, are you a
Definitely
slasher?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, are you a slasher? Are you a blood, guts, and gore? Are you a mental horror? Like, if I knew you and you, okay, let me put it this way, because he's here and all y'all know him. I would say that Morningstar could read this. Like, I would say, oh yeah. He would love it. Do I think other people who I know, I don't know if it would be the top on my list to recommend to other people, especially if you're more like in the vein of, I'm trying to think, maybe like
traditional.
yeah, like I don't know, your Richard Layman's, your Edward Lee's, stuff like that. The stuff that is a little bit more, what would be the word, tangible, like I'm gonna stab you kind of horror. That seems like I'm really taking it down, because I know I'm not saying those books aren't layered, they are, but it's a little bit more like, okay, you have a knife, you're gonna hurt me. It's not like there are strings coming out of your face. What does that mean? It's
not a straightforward kind of story.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd necessarily would call it horror first. To me, it feels just weird fiction is what I would call it first.
Yeah. With
some horror elements.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. That's Crystal. Horror. I got you. I understand.
It's the weirdness that pulls me into it first. Of what would I call it? Like, what would you classify this? I would call it a weird fiction, a weird dark fiction book with horror elements.
I mean, I'm terrible at classifying stuff anyway. But yeah, I can definitely see. I would say that it's uncomfortable horror. Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable horror in a way.
And it's not a straightforward writing style. It's
not at all.
So it's definitely not a beginner.
Yeah.
Kind of
I kind
dark
of
book.
This like the same. It lights up the same synapses. What is that movie with Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's real like meta.
Oh,
Inception.
This is like the book form of Inception.
It's the dream within a dream within a dream.
Right. Yeah, like Inception is one of those movies. Like if you walk out of the room to pee and come back, you're like, "What are we doing?" Like that. That's this book. Like if you blink and you're like, "Okay, what?" That's kind of the same vibe that I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been more of a step up from
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because this takes place
general horror.
Right.
Not dissing anybody, but
Wait, no, exactly.
Just
It's a
different books for
path.
different people.
Right. Yeah. It's a different path. I would have to know your reading style before I would say like, yeah, try this. I really don't think it would be the top on my list to be like, oh yeah, you should definitely read this before you die. Like, I would really have to know your style first.
Yeah, some people aren't gonna like this.
Yeah.
No. They're just not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't get it, but I'm saying they're gonna be like, oh, what is
some people enjoy not getting it, some people don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't like ambiguity and like endings that aren't all like explained and characters that are confusing, you're not gonna like this one.
Yeah. If you don't want a damn thing explained, but a fun ride, there we got you covered.
Yep. Which I love.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down. Now, I will say, like, I don't think I could read books like this every day. Like, I really don't. I think I'm like, okay, I need some Jason, some Freddy Krueger or something after this. Yeah. So I don't know if I could read a book like this every single day, which is kind of why I put it a distance away from what I'm reading now. Because this is kind of in that same, like, not anywhere close, but neighboring cities. Not same city, neighboring cities that like weird, like you were saying, like that weird fiction with a sprinkle of horror. Like some books are weird fiction donuts with sprinkles. This was a whole damn cake with horror sprinkles, and then some kind of weird filling that nobody at the party likes.
Or can't quite nail down the flavor.
Yeah, you're like, is it almond? Is it butterscotch?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Knows. Yeah. Nobody knows. Well, cool. I think we could probably go on for hours on this one.
Yeah.
I know it's yeah. So I want to thank all of you for reading this with me. I think there's things I didn't notice. It's and I have to reread it to find out what I missed with Lou. So
I know I kind of want to reread it.
yeah, kind of want
See, I
to talk
don't.
to
I'm
the
like,
author.
I'm good. I would love to talk. I would love to pick that author's brain. Yeah, definitely. See, Steve, you got the pull. You could do that.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him. Yeah, we'll see.
He'd love to talk to you. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll try and twist some arms. Thanks, Priscilla, for coming by.
Yes, thank you, Priscilla.
Yeah.
Always so supportive.
Yeah, definitely.
I love Priscilla.
Looking forward to her next book.
Yes, absolutely.
So cool, everybody. Well, thank you for reading with me and coming on for the discussion. I know it's tough to find a day and a time for everyone, but thanks for taking the time. Daniel, thank you for squeezing it in. I know it was a race to the finish line because of your long weekend with your friends. So thanks for
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
of course.
Sorry I
anytime.
spent the last half of the time looking for the name of 3 gods I never found, but I'll
that's
find
okay.
it and I'll post it in page chewing as soon as I do.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. As soon as we cut it off, you'll find it. That's how.
Yeah,
that works.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it always works. So, Pax, where can people find you if they want to contact you?
Well, best place is right here on YouTube at Pax Panic. Yeah, that would be the best place. This is where I like to lurk most of my time.
And Crystal, where can people find you?
Yeah. My channel, Fiber Artsy. I should have wrote that down, I guess. But Instagram, Fiber Artsy, and Fiber Artsy everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And Daniel, where can people find you?
Nobody needs to find me.
Nobody.
We will find you.
Nobody needs to find me. I love that.
I love that. Yeah, it's great.
We'll catch you on the forum.
Yeah. And Griffin, thanks for coming by. I think if I read this book, my brain will explode. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. If you get to it, let us know. Let us know what you think. And I'll leave all the channels down below, so go check them out. Thanks everyone for coming by and hanging out with us.
Yeah,
And we'll
thanks
Yeah.
talk
for
to
Thanks,
you.
Steve, for hosting.
Yeah,
Yep,
of course.
thanks for
Anytime.
talking.
It's nice to meet you, Daniel.
And you guys as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.